This is what sustainability means to me, is to leave this planet in a better shape than it was in when I arrived.
When the wind's blowing, you don't use water.
Personally, I like the fact that they are renewable, they're emission-free.
New Zealand is perfectly positioned to take advantage of wind power.
Each year, New Zealand consumes massive amounts of electric energy that's generated using our hydro resources, as well as oil and natural gas. Discovering and harnessing new and cost-effective energy resources is crucial to the ongoing social and economic sustainability and development of our country. Traditional power-generating fuels such as oil and gas are finite and have obvious environmental impacts. And we've all seen just how exposed New Zealand has been in the past to fluctuating water levels in our hydro lakes. There is an answer though: the wind. Internationally, there is a growing use of wind farms as a clean, sustainable and environmentally responsible alternative to fossil fuels for electricity generation. Wind power generation reduces the creation of greenhouse gas emissions and other pollutants. By the end of 2002, there were over 61,500 wind turbines around the world, with a yearly energy output of over 64.8 billion kilowatt hours. Enough electricity to power 10 million homes. With those numbers in mind, it's no surprise to learn that wind generation has grown by 35% per year over the last 5 years. Globally, wind is still a vastly underutilised resource for renewable power generation and accounts for only 0.4% of total world energy production.
Meridian's a company very focused on renewable energy. All our production is renewable. We're a company that stands by the principles of sustainability, looking after the communities that we operate in, looking after the environment, and making sure that we've got a sustainable economic return as well.
Well, New Zealand has some of the best wind resource in the world, and up till recently we haven't been able to exploit that wind resource because the cost of energy in New Zealand has been globally relatively cheap.
What it does deliver is a wonderful renewable option. It goes towards some of the government's goals for sustainability. It looks towards sort of how we do things in terms of the government's requirements for climate change. And so in terms of the strategic fit for the country and the Kyoto compliance and the protocol, it's a wonderful way of achieving that.
Meridian Energy is applying for resource consent to build New Zealand's largest capacity wind farm on hills near the Manawatu Gorge.
The problem with wind is it needs to be made economic. It's a real tough one to make economic at the moment, but Meridian believes it can get it across the line.
One of the key factors is turbine technology and the maturing of the wind generation technology globally. We've seen the size of turbines increase quite dramatically. Now that the manufacturers are looking at utility scale wind generators, you're seeing a great leap in size up to 1.5 megawatt, and they even have turbines now which are looking at over 4 megawatts, which are very big turbines. So that in itself, the energy that you can get from a turbine that size, means that the site actually is commercially viable.
TeApiti is the Māori name for the Manawatu Gorge and also means to connect, making TeApiti a highly appropriate name for a new wind power scheme. Meridian Energy is applying to expand a site for which it has existing consent to develop a significant wind farm on the northern side of the gorge near Palmerston North.
We've got the top road that's coming around over that light pasture over there, and that'll finish by that.
As part of the application process, Meridian Energy has already consulted widely. 4 different councils, the Department of Conservation, local iwi, Transit New Zealand and Airways Corporation have all been involved.
We're quite lucky in New Zealand. We have a unique situation where we have the Southern Alps running up the length of the South Island, and then in the North Island here we've got the Ruahine and Taurua ranges. What they do is they create a wall across New Zealand, running the length of New Zealand. That wall is blocking our predominant winds. When you breach a dam, as the water runs through the dam, it speeds up. Well, we have the same situation in the Manawatu Gorge, and because the wind actually forces its way through the gorge, the wind speed increases.
The increase in wind speed is a critical factor. Double the wind speed and you get 8 times the energy. And when the wind blows as constantly as it does in the Manawatu Gorge, wind generation starts to look very viable.
Because we have such a good wind resource here, TeApiti has the potential to be a world-class performing wind farm on global standards.
The ones that are going to be pushing the public announcement fairly close are going to be visual impacts, because they're so significant.
We've been working on the project currently for about 18 months, and we're working on expanding what was already a consented site.
At present we have consent for a 10 megawatt wind farm which comprises 20 turbines. The proposal is to significantly expand that. We hope to have over 50 turbines on the area generating between 80 and 90 megawatts.
One of those turbines will be able to supply enough energy for about 588 homes. So we've got 55 of them, so that we're looking at around about 32,000 homes would be able to be powered from TeApiti. This will be the first wind farm to actually connect into the national grid. The other wind farms we have in New Zealand are basically what we call embedded, so the energy is soaked up in the local network.
It's wind generation on a large scale, and a good understanding of the environmental implications is crucial. Meridian's work on that understanding is ongoing, and consultation with all interested parties is a key part of that.
We have a Resource Management Act. Resource Management Act requires us to earn the permission of the public, and to do that we've got to convince the public that what we're going to do is good for them, good for the community, good for the environment.
Meridian have a substantial team of experts in helping us to get this wind farm up and running. There is a huge amount of effects assessments which need to be done. We have to do testing of the geology and landscape. We have to look at the visual impact of this and how it will look. There are ecological impacts that we need to assess.
Boffamuskel are part of the Meridian consenting team for TeApiti. We're involved with the landscape and ecology aspects. The visual effects is a subset of landscape, and it's one of the most significant aspects of the consenting process, because visual effects tend to be the things that the public are most concerned about. Meridian commissioned some detailed contour information from which we built a 3D computer model, a digital terrain model, and on that we've placed the turbines, and that's been the basis for doing the computer generated visual simulations. The simulations are an essential part of the consultation process, and the series of simulations have been produced. We will be presented to the public, and they'll be able to get a very clear idea of the scale of the effects of the turbines on the landscape.
To minimise the impact in TeApiti, we've done a lot of things as we've gone through the sort of feasibility and pre-design stage.
Ecology is about the natural functioning of the land, and before we can understand the effects of the wind farm, we've got to understand the ecology and the way that land functions. We look at such things as the flora and fauna, the stream pattern, the slopes, the vegetation, the runoff, the effects on wildlife, particularly on birds. Those are some of the key elements that the ecology aspects will look at.
Noise used to be an issue with turbines. Manufacturers have spent a lot of effort and time reducing that. They do all sorts of things. They try and take away any technical aspects of the turbine that creates pure tones, and it's that kind of work that's made them quite acceptable, and the noise is very low that comes from a turbine.
The footprints of the actual turbines are small in this vast landscape, so it can easily be accommodated with no effects on the natural systems at all. We really want to field all the views and find out what concerns are out there. We're putting a lot of time, a lot of effort into talking to people, telling them what we've got, extracting all of the information, all of the concerns, all of the needs. Basically, what do people think about this?
And that's a key part of the whole process, is the consultation period, where we can get the community's feedback, listen to any concerns they have, mitigate them where possible.
New Zealand is a fantastic resource for wind, and we have some of the world's best spots for wind turbines.
In fact, I personally think that wind generation is the hottest renewable energy of the 21st century.
The recent difficulties we've had with gas and coal-powered stations suggest that we need to spread our risk somewhat, and wind could go a substantial way to reducing that risk.
We're very focused on wind development, and we think we can be the major player on renewable energy supply in this country.
This 3D simulated visual reality journey takes us through the proposed Meridian project TeApiti site. Once through Ashurst, we quickly fly across to Saddle Road. On Saddle Road, we continue up to an access road. This access road takes us up to the highest point within the area and takes us past a number of the proposed wind turbine sites. At the high point, we now take a 360-degree spin around to show you the full extent of the proposed project. From Woodville, we head towards the Manawatu Gorge. As we get into the gorge, we now look towards the TeApiti area, where some of the turbines can be seen as we drive along. Once out of the gorge, we quickly fly back towards Ashurst and end up where our journey began.